So, here doing my laundry, and topic today is concerning emotion and the value of emotion, what emotion is, and how it's typically given a lot more credit than it's due because people want to justify their behavior in terms of their own victimhood and their own self-pity, and there's virtue in giving yourself the label of being of having some kind of depth of feeling. There's a sorrow in experiencing trauma and wanting to live in that trauma, to relish that trauma, and it all is situated in an envy of God, essentially. Emotion means energy in motion. The etymology is in motion. Motion means to move forward. Move, say move, motion. So it just means you're pushing something out, essentially, you know, which is neutral. Like you can yell, or you can cry, or all of these things are neutral and they're temporary, right? So there's the first clue, you know. So we know that anything that's temporary is not eternal, it's not spiritual. So emotions typically are not spiritual, they're material, and they're based on the repercussion of attaching your desire or your love into a temporary dynamic, whether that's a person who you're identifying as a body, or a candy bar, or a car, or whatever it is. You know, you want something and you're afraid, and you're unhappy because you can't have it, right? And there's emotion to that, okay? And then you get the thing you want, and there's an emotion to that. Oh, joy. So kind of like lightweight. And then you lose the thing that you wanted. Sad. So you're always in a state of misery because you want a temporary thing, you're afraid to lose that temporary thing, and then you lost that temporary thing, right? So it's a miserable situation full of a range of emotions. But just because you have emotions attached to your own selfishness and your own lamentation that you didn't get what you wanted, or you got what you wanted. See, this is karma. This is what karma is based on. Karma is based on action, positive and negative action, okay? So you give, you help an old lady across the street, you get like a chunk of good karma, you know? So maybe someone will give you $5, or you'll get a free car wash, or something, whatever the exchange rate is, right? Or the same thing, like you push an old lady down and you steal her purse. Okay, well now someone's gonna like steal your car, or whatever the case may be. And there's all kinds of emotions attached to that. But the goal is to get off the wheel of karma, to get off the wheel of birth and death. And the way that that's done is to disconnect yourself from pleasure and pain, fearing pain, avoiding pain, and seeking pleasure in terms of a temporary result. This goes back to the identity of who you are, who I am. That's Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means eternal, Chit means perfect knowledge, and Ananda means bliss. And this is who you are. It never changes. It's eternal. This is your identity. So if you don't know everything, or if you don't have answers to your questions, it's because you have a layer of ignorance blocking that. You have forgetfulness, right? If you're not joyful, if you're sad, that means you've forgotten who you are. You've forgotten your relationship with God. You're in ignorance. So if you want to retain that knowledge and that joy, then you have to remove layers of ignorance, separating you from it. And the cause of the spiritual world, the cause of the material world is that we are envious of the Supreme Person, and we want to forget the Supreme Person, and we want to control and enjoy pleasure, and we want to be the center of pleasure. We want to be served. We basically want to be God. And so what we have here is a planet of little baby gods running around trying to arrange matter so that they can have the most enjoyment, the largest decrease of enjoyment, and have people worship them and appreciate them and respect them, which is why people have kids, right? Like a little mini-me that will do whatever you tell them to do, and they'll love you unconditionally, and they look like you. Added bonus, oh, he's so cute, looks just like me. So that's happening. And so when we don't get what we want, our impulse isn't to say, dear Lord, I don't need that. As long as I can be in your service, I'm grateful. That's not why this world is engineered. That's not why we're here. So if we're still envious of God and we want to forget this person, which is the only way that we can substitute ourselves as God, we're going to be pissed off when we don't get what we want. When we don't get that candy bar, or a girlfriend leaves us, or trauma, whatever the trauma may be, we are going to infer that it's just not fucking fair because I'm God, and how come no one knows that, and I'm just going to have a pity party, and I'm going to make people miserable, and everyone's going to know loud and clear that I'm not happy, that I'm not being worshipped. And so this is where victimhood comes from, and this is where self-pity comes from. And so the emotions connected with self-pity and victimhood are sadness, it's depression, it's fear. It all boils down to fear and anger, okay? You're envious of the Supreme Person, so you forget who you are, you identify with the body, and you become fearful because you're going to lose that body, for sure. And then, based on that fear, which is introverted, you create an extroverted anger, right? So this is a projection of your fear on other people. And so any kind of emotion connected to the dynamic of fear and anger is toxic. So that's the topic of the video today, is toxic emotion. And joy, ananda, is not an emotion. It is your eternal state of being. It is your definition of self. It is not something that changes. It is not like motion, like in motion, like it's breezy. It can change at any moment. Like the definition of, like anything in motion is going to stop in terms of matter, right? So you could say that it's a spiritual emotion as separated from a materialistic emotion because it's permanent. That counts as long as we're like being very specific with our definitions. But I'm talking to this therapist because my sister wanted me to. She recommended that there may be some subconscious issues that are happening based on our childhood that are limiting me or affecting me, and I'm open-minded, and I like psychology, I like philosophy. I don't like pharmaceuticals, but I like the attempt of creating solutions. And so the woman I was talking to, the first thing she said was like, how are you doing today? And it always throws me because like, how are you doing? If you know your identity, you know that you're joyful permanently. And so if you're not joyful, you know that you're being in a pity party and you're basically being a baby because you're envious of God, So when someone asked me that, it's kind of like, well, I'm not anything temporary. Like what she was looking for is a temporary answer. Like she's trying to psychoanalyze a cause and effect based on like my level of having a pity party, right? But it's kind of a trap because you're automatically inferring in your language that it's a high possibility that someone's going to be on a pity party, which is probably the truth with her clients, but it's a weird angle, It's like coming up to somebody and saying like, so, like, did you feel sorry for yourself today? It's like, what the fuck? Who talks like that? Like, hey, what's up, Matt? Or hey, what's up, Johnny? Like, did you feel sorry for yourself today? It's like, well, fuck you, Because just as easily as somebody saying like, how are you doing? Or how are you feeling? You could be like, dude, I had an amazing day today. Like, what's the coolest thing that happened with your day? And automatically you're changing the frequency and you're changing the response. Your DNA is affecting their DNA based on epigenetics, and they're most likely going to be, fuck, the best thing? Well, I don't know. I had pretty good breakfast burrito, So I'm going to pause right there. I'm getting a phone call. All right, so a little wrap up here. Your natural emotion is your joy. That's your spiritual identity. So toxic emotion is anything other than that. Disappointment, sadness, impatience, depression, anger, fear. These are all toxic emotions, right? So if you're emotional and you're putting some merit to that, there actually is only merit if you're experiencing joy, and that joy is your relationship of love and service to God. And anything other than that is toxic. It's materialistic. It's in motion, it's changeable, and it's all essentially based on a pity party because you're not getting what you want. And you're not getting what you want because you're envious of the person that has what they want, and you want to be like that person, and you can't, so you develop fear, and from that fear is anger. Like, you're fearful first, and then, like what? You see the wolf, you can run from the wolf, you can yell at the wolf, right? So, toxic emotion. So what is the solution? The solution is to listen to the heart, to study knowledge that's passed down from a succession of disciples, and understand why you're here and what your purpose and function is. And that purpose and function is to listen to your heart and with sincerity, and create this awareness for other people and the experience of the Supreme Person in other people's lives and your own. You have to taste the bread before you pass it. So that's about it. Satchitananda, bliss, eternity, and knowledge.